Oh, there we go. All right, we're good now. We're good now.
Okay, good.
How's the day going?
It's good. It's good. I'm
This
excited to be doing our first live thing for all of us, I think, right?
Live thing, whatever it is. I mean, yeah, we can.
Yeah.
I guess what we really wanted to do was, you've been doing so well on Darkroom, and we wanted to highlight your story and, get you behind your Instagram Live. And I feel like your audience wants to see you a lot of times get in front of the camera, and I know sometimes you don't want to. So we can kind of jump right in, and we kind of want to talk about this. All be about you, right? Like, what's your story about you becoming an artist, and just kind of dive right in.
Yeah, sure. Ask anything you want. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So I guess I know a little bit about your story, but for people that don't know, like, how did it all? What's the origin story of you becoming an artist?
Well, it started sort of with writing. I started Positively Present in 2009, just as a blog, which then led to writing books, which then led to illustrating the books. I just sort of took an interest in graphic design, started doing some illustrating on my own, and my publisher ended up seeing it and said, would you like to add some illustrations to your book? And I was like, sure, I'd love to. That's where it sort of really got started. Then I ended up doing a planner for them, like a diary, and took more and more classes. And then over the past, I'd say, year and a half or so, I've gotten really into the illustrating more so than just the general graphic design. And that's when I, got to the point where I was like, I'm going to start selling prints, the work I'm doing on Instagram.
And so were you full-time during this time, or you were working at a marketing company, or you were working in a marketing job, right?
Marketing. I worked for a biotech company and then a wealth management company.
Go figure.
So not at all as creative as I wanted to be. So I started Positively Present in 2009, and I left my full-time job in 2012. So there was a bit of an overlap before I was doing it full-time. I didn't just like dive right into it.
What was like the breaking point for you? What was the moment when you decided that you wanted to make what you're doing with Positively Present, your full-time gig?
Well, I definitely, as it started growing, I realized that was a possibility. And then I knew that I wanted to do something more creative. So I was like, this is the perfect opportunity as my audience grew. And as I became more comfortable as well with sharing my story, in terms like when I first started the blog, I didn't even put my name on it, not even my first name. I was and it's weird because I'm not a very shy person, but there was just something about it. I didn't want people I worked with to know about it or anything. But once I sort of overcame that, and then I was able to, I guess kind of widen my audience when I became more open myself. So yeah, and I did, spend a lot of time saving money and sort of making a plan. Anybody who is a creative person and thinking about leaving their full-time job, I highly recommend having a plan, having way more money than you think you're going to need in place before you, decide to leave.
And so what about, I guess, the brand, right? Positively Present. Why was that the actual brand you chose? Did it come to you at some point in time, or was that always like the concept that you wanted to launch out with for your artistic career?
I had no inkling that was where my life was going to go at all. It started because I was in a really low place in my own life. And I started looking online at different happiness blogs and, trying to get an understanding of like how I could improve my own life. And I'd always been a writer. So once I started realizing, all right, I'm going to try to be a more positive and more present person, because those were two things I struggled with a lot. I thought, why not share what I'm doing with other people? I see other people having blogs and talking about it. So I thought, I'll do that too and see, if people want to read about my experiences, because I was coming from a place not of being an expert in being positive or being mindful. I was coming from the place of somebody who really struggled with those things, and sort of wanted to tell my story about how I was sort of figuring on a day-to-day basis how I could be more of an optimistic person. And I mean, if somebody had told me as a child that this is what I would be doing, I would have been not surprised about the creative part, but I would have been surprised about the positivity aspect of it, because I was never a very positive person.
And I mean, I'm sure your work has helped so many different people just view their day-to-day differently. And I mean, that's super important. And that's such an important thing nowadays, right? I mean, being positive is really everything. And so I think what would be an interesting take one thing for the people that are listening live, you guys can ask any questions. We'll try to get to them at the end. But it would be really cool to just hear like what your day-to-day is like, right? Like, are you waking up at 3 PM and then going to bed at 4 AM, or like, you know, what is the creation process like for you?
I tend to stick to pretty, I guess, standard schedule. I usually, go to bed anytime between 10 and 12, and I wake up at like 6, 7. That just works for me personally. Also, I have a dog, and that definitely keeps me on schedule. She has to go out. I can't sleep till in the afternoon, even if I wanted to, which is good. And it really depends on what I'm working on. I'm generally working on a lot of different types of projects, which I like. And I think a lot of creative people do that, especially this day and age. I feel like so many people have like different things going on. So like right now I'm working on a children's book, illustrating that with somebody. I just did something for a more corporate type project, just finished that up. I'm doing a big speaking presentation for an organization that I can't talk about because it's a top secret one, but I'm really focused on that. So I've kind of got a lot of different things going on. I just wake up and, whatever has like the soonest deadline or something that inspires me. But I tend to do most of my drawing that people see on Instagram at night. It's kind of like my unwind for the day. Even though it is work, it is like a mix of fun and work. So that's like most of the stuff that people see on Instagram is done. I'll usually be listening to music, drawing, or listening to a podcast or something, and just sort of unwinding for the day.
And what's your workflow like for creating those? Like, are you making them all in Illustrator? Like, what's the process like for finding the quotes that you use?
Well, with the quotes, it's usually something that resonates with me. Like, let's say I'm going through some sort of change in my life, then I'll be looking up quotes on change. Or if I'm, I don't know, feeling sad, I look up quotes on that. So a lot of times it has to do with what I'm feeling. Or if I'm, on Twitter or Instagram or something and I stumble across a really interesting quote, I'm like, ooh, like I want to illustrate that. But for the most part, it kind of relates to what I'm going through. And I do all of it in an app called Procreate on my iPad Pro, which I'm obsessed with. I'm obsessed with both the iPad Pro and Procreate. I mean, they both really changed the game for me because I did a lot of work hand-drawn and in Illustrator, but there's just something about Procreate, and anybody who uses it probably knows, like, that makes it so much easier to make changes, to change the colors of things and just play around more. And so you can see on my Instagram, there's a big shift in my style. And I feel like I almost got like a better sense of my style in terms of having one sort of look that is me once I really got into using the Procreate app.
Cool. Love it. I think what's been interesting is, for those people who maybe are part of your audience and don't know too much about us, right? We basically facilitate the work of your prints, and so many people have, ordered them, right? And they're in the homes of so many different people, and that's really cool for us to see. But what does that mean for you as an artist? Like, these people are walking around, and I don't know, they have guests coming over, like, this is what they see day to day, and they see your positive message. Like, what does that mean to you as an artist?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a great feeling. I mean, the fact that people just even visit my Instagram and comment stuff is so cool. Because I just, didn't expect my life to go this way and to be doing this. But definitely people having things in their homes, or a lot of people will tell me they have it at their schools or their offices. I've had a lot of people who are, counselors or therapists say, oh my gosh, I've just gotten a bunch of your prints to put up in my office for which makes me feel so good that like there are people out there, especially like professionals, who are like, this is something that would help other people. And that's really what I want to do with my work, is help people, because for me, it's a struggle. I mean, even now it's a struggle for me to stay positive sometimes and to stay in the moment. And so if I can help other people with, what I'm doing, it's the best feeling in the world.
I can imagine. I think what would be super cool is just to hear about things that are coming up in your life. We'll keep this short, just this whole interview in general, but like, what are things that are coming up in your life that maybe you want your audience to know about, or they can get more involved in?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing that's most exciting for me, and I have a couple here that I want to show people, is the prints. I do have a lot of cool things coming up, but I love the prints, and I feel like people, let me just show, you guys have seen them, but like this is one of them. They're it's hard to explain if you haven't seen them in person, but they're so colorful. And I feel like you guys see that on Instagram, but sometimes you'll see something on a screen and it doesn't quite look the same. But they just look exactly how I drew them, which is so cool. This is I know it's backwards, I think, probably.
Yeah, it's all right.
But you get the idea. And I love the like canvas. It's just like, I know that's not the point of this interview, but I have to talk about it because I think people might not realize like how cool they are. And also like, I have a problem and I buy my own prints. Like I have, this is a stack.
No,
that I
no.
Have,
I didn't even know you got that many of your own.
Like, they look so nice and colorful and like exactly what you expect them to look like, which doesn't always happen when you buy stuff online. You know, it's like, oh, it looks great and colorful on the screen. You get it home, it's not as great. But anyway, so people definitely should check out my shop. There's a link in my profile, and they can just search on Darkroom if they want. But yeah, that's the main thing that I'm focusing on because it's the thing I like the most. I mean, I do all kinds of different illustrating work and writing and different things, but right now, like drawing for Instagram and then creating those into prints, it's just my favorite thing. So if everyone could check that out, that would be awesome.
That's great. I think there was actually a pretty good question that was asked a little bit before. Someone said, Jolly, I think she said,
Hold
did
on.
you see that question?
Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay. I can't see you guys, and I can't see myself anymore, but you can see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
Did you see that interruption? Somebody called me, and it was very
What
was the good question that somebody had?
I think it was from Jolly's. How can you overcome a very difficult day where you feel you failed everything and you get so overwhelmed? Be positive and keep working is hard. Basically saying, how can you get over a really difficult day? And maybe how do you currently, right? I mean, even though you have this brand behind you, like, you still have tough days, just like everyone else. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, for me, the most important thing, and it sounds so cliche, and if you don't do it a lot, you might think this is dumb, but gratitude is the biggest thing for me. Like, anytime I'm having a bad day, all I do is like, I'll think about all the things that are going right. Because even when things are like the absolute worst, there's always something that could be going worse. Or, you know, at least you've got friends, or at least you've got family, or if you don't have those things, at least you've got a job. Hopefully you have something that can be good. So that's what I always recommend. And I also feel like at the end of the day, we're all like more tired, more stressed. I tend to like have my worst, darkest moments at night and during the evening. And I think a lot of people are that way. So I think getting a good night's sleep or doing the best thing you can to like get through to the next day. I find that I often have a different outlook in the morning than at night. So, you know, don't beat yourself up if you're like, oh, I don't feel positive, I'm having such a hard time. Like, sleep on it, give yourself time, and things always get better. It's hard to see it when you're in the middle of it. And even for somebody like me, like I don't always, you know, have the best attitude, but I do know, like, from life experience that things always end up turning around. It might take a while, but it will. And keeping that in mind, like that, you know, notion that things will change, can be really helpful.
Great. There was one other question too, which will be the last one, which is, what's your ultimate drawing playlist? Do you listen to music when you create?
Can you guys see me?
Yeah, we can see you. You getting another call?
No, I mean, I got a low battery now. I had a full battery.
Oh no, we'll wrap it up quick.
A lot of battery. I don't know.
There was one other question, which was, what was your ultimate drawing playlist? Do you listen to music when you create, or?
Yeah, I have a ton of playlists on Spotify. It's Positively Present on there.
So you follow?
Yeah. My go-to thing is listening to Philosophize This, which is a podcast that's on Spotify, and it's also on iTunes and, you know, wherever you can listen to podcasts. That's my go-to, but generally it's my mood. Like, there's like, I have like playlists for all different things, like motivation or like, you know, dark times, like different things. So whatever my mood is, I kind of go with that.
Awesome. Are there any parting thoughts you want to do before we end this?
No, just check out my prints.
Thank you, Danny. Thanks for taking this. Thank you
sure,
very much.
It was great.
We'll put this up on the website. We'll give it to you to put it up as well.
Okay, cool. Thanks so much for your questions and everything.
Later, Danny.
Thank you for the positivity.